In this video, let's make a Vue.js app in AppScript. So we're not going to be building the actual application. We'll just do a setup so that we can actually use Vue.js in AppScript environment. So we're going to have our VS Code in a folder open, and we're going to need a few different pieces of software. So we're going to need Parcel here. We're going to need Clasp and possibly Vue.js documentation. We'll see. So let's go to Parcel and click Get Started. Obviously, we're going to need Node.js installed. And just to check here, the version I got here for Node is version 16. So you want to make sure you're up to date if you're doing this. So let's start by starting a project here. So I'll do npm init -y so I don't have to answer any questions here. That should create our package JSON file right there. And next, let's go to Parcel and install Parcel. So we'll go to their documentation. I already went to getting started here. So let's just scroll up here. Let's go on top here, web app. That should get us to getting started section. So we want to just install this as a dev dependency. So I'm going to copy this link, go to my terminal and run this command. So just so you can see what version was installed here, if I go to package.json, the version I got is 2.6.2. If you want to use the exact same version, feel free to install it. But that should get us what we need. I'm going to create a source folder here. I'll call it src. And this is where I'm going to pretty much do the Vue application. So let's go to that Parcel documentation and let's just go on the left to Vue section. So we got React here. We got Vue. There it is, Vue. So I'll basically just create the structure of these three files. So I'm going to need an HTML file with this. So I'll copy that, go to my project. Then in this folder, in the source folder, I'm going to add a file like index.html. I'll just paste this. Well, I guess instead of doing this, let's actually do exclamation tab and paste that here and remove this document type. Maybe I didn't have to do this, but let's do it anyways. So that should be our HTML file. Let's go to this source folder and create the other couple of files we're going to need. So if I go back here, see we got this index JavaScript file. So I'm going to copy that, go here, create another file, call it index.js, paste the code, save. And then finally, let's go back and get the actual Vue file. So this is going to be app.vue. So I'll go back here, create that file, call it app.vue, and paste the code. See, it's asking me to install extension for Vue. I'm going to go ahead and do that. That should help us with autocomplete and syntax highlighting. So close that. That's fine. Now in this Vue file, I'm going to paste that Vue code. That's good. Let's go back to our Explorer to see the files. So we got three files here, HTML, index, and app Vue file. And we should be using that app Vue file somewhere here. See, we import that file in this index file. So that's pretty much it. So the rest should be fine. We'll just keep it at this, I guess. So if I go back now to this, we should have our setup. Now, if I wanted to start this application, I would have to basically point to this index.html from Parcel. So I'm going to go to package.json, and here we're going to create a script, start, and it's going to basically say Parcel watch, and we're going to point to that file. So from current directory, we're going to go to src directory, and in that src directory, we're going to have our index.html file, which points to this file right here. So as of right now, if I run this npm start, now Vue is hopefully going to go get what it needs. It says external dependency Vue is not declared, package.json. So we need to install Vue. So I'm going to do Control C here to get out of this. So let's go ahead and install Vue. So we're going to do npm install Vue. So that should install that. Let's just check what version that installed. See, I got under dependencies now Vue 3.2. So that's 3. So we're good. Let's go ahead and now do npm start again and see what happens. So now it's giving me a different error. It says the main file here is this index.js. I'm going to do Control C on that. Let's just go ahead and delete the main file out of this JSON file for now. Save it like this. I'm going to go and rerun that again. Hopefully we'll get this to work. Finally, no errors. So let's just see here. See, it created this dist folder with this HTML file and this JavaScript files. Now we're going to basically want to not do this. We need one HTML file that includes everything in it, not separate like JavaScript and HTML files like we have here. And for that, let's actually delete this dist folder for now and go back to our parcel documentation. And in here, let's go to HTML section, scroll down, and try to find how we inline our scripts. So there it is, inline scripts and styles. So that's going to be this. I'm going to copy this part, the script, go back to our basically project, open our HTML file, and right here, I'm just going to paste it below this script. And we're going to just modify basically here, when we import, we need to import our index file. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Let's get rid of this console log. And we can get rid of this line. So hopefully with this, now when I save it, see it created this dist folder again. Let's actually delete this and make sure we make some changes. So let's go to this and add a new line, hit save. So it creates the dist folder. So you can see now I just got one HTML file, and this should have all the script stuff now embedded in the file. That's good. We got our HTML. Now at this point, let's just leave this alone. I'm going to do Control C to get out of this. And let's now set up our app script. So we'll basically go to Clasp and scroll down here. And we need to install Clasp. So I'm going to grab this line, copy that, go back. And in our terminal, let's just clear this. I'm going to paste that. Instead of global installation, we're going to change it to a dev dependency. So I'll do this. And that should install Clasp for us. Let's also go ahead and install our types for autocomplete. If you haven't already enabled your AppScript API, you would need to follow this link right here and make sure you turn it on. For me, it's already done, so I'm not going to do that. But for you, you may need to do this if you've never done this before. So I'm going to scroll up here, find docs, and scroll down and find TypeScript, and scroll down and find the installation. Where is it? There it is. I went over it. So there it is. Copy this. Go back. Paste that here. Change it to dev dependency again. Run that. So at this point, if I go to my package.json, you should be able to see what dependencies I have. So this was automatically installed by Parcel to handle our Vue files. This is Clasp that I installed. This is the version. And I got my types here for autocomplete for us. Good. So now let's create another folder here on the top level. I'm going to call that app script. And in this folder, basically, we're going to need all the app script related stuff. First of all, let's go ahead and go to Clasp and set up some commands. So I'm going to scroll down here. Is this the main level? No, let's go to the main level. And scroll down. So we did install this. I'm going to scroll down and do the login, logout commands. So one is going to be Clasp login. The other one is Clasp logout. So copy that, go to our package.json file, scroll up, and in the script section, let's just copy paste this. We'll do glogin to get this to login, and I'm going to just paste it here. Oops, that's not what I wanted. So that's going to be Clasp login. That's what it should be. Copy paste logout. So that's login, logout for Clasp. We're going to need more commands here. So let's just go ahead and see what else we're going to need. We're going to need basically pull and push commands. So let's do that. So I'm going to do gpull. And push. And let's get back here. And then also this create command. So I'm going to click on that. So it's going to be Clasp create. And I'm just going to scroll down and copy this one that has title and root directory specified. So I'll copy that command, go back here and paste it as a command here. I'm going to remove this parent ID right there. I'm going to comment out these quotations for my script. So this we're going to do create. And that's Clasp create. The title is whatever we're going to call this. I'm going to call it first Vue app. And root directory for this, we're going to need to point to this app script directory. So that's that to create. And finally, let's add one more line here. And this I'm going to call gstart. And this will be automatically pushing our changes. So if we go back here and find watch. So I'm going to copy that, go back and paste it right here. So I think that should be enough. I guess we'll find out in a second. So let's just clear this really quickly. Let's start by logging in. So I'm going to do Clasp, actually npm run glogin, which refers to this basically right there. And that's going to open in a browser and ask us to basically give permissions and log in to our account. So logged in on that one. Now let's go back. Now let's go ahead and run this create. So I'm going to do npm run gcreate. So it's going to ask us what type of app we're creating. For this, I'm going to do a web app. So seems like that's done. Let's open this app script, see it made these things. So based on my previous experience, we may have to move one of them out of here, but for now, I'm going to leave it here. So let's just go ahead and open this path. So control click, command click should do it. And that's our starting point, basically. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my Visual Studio Code before I do anything else. And I'm going to make sure that when we create this Vue file, this HTML file, instead of that going to this dist folder, I'd like that to go to this app script folder. So the way we can do that, if I go to our parcel documentation and go to their command line interface, here, we should have an option. See, basically our output directory right there. So I'll copy that, go back to our code, and basically just add that to our command. So I'll go to package.json, and right here, when we did this start watch, I'm going to add this destination directory, and that's going to be this, which is the current directory, and app script to point to the right directory. So at this point, if I go ahead and delete this dist, trash it, if I go ahead and run npm start, that should now create our Vue file in this app script directory, which is going to be this HTML file. Now I'll go inside of this app script and create a JavaScript file. I'll call it code.js. And here we want basically the function that's going to render that HTML file. So that will be our doGet function. And that should return an HTML service. So we'll do an HTML service, create template from file, and we're going to point to that index file, which is that HTML file, and we're going to do evaluate. And if you want to add some meta tags, you can do them here. And usually you would do your viewport tags here. Like for example, this viewport should go here, and the value for that should go here. So that's that. Let's just move this to a separate line like this to make it easy to read. So that's our doGet function that will render that HTML file. That's pretty much all I need, at least for now. So at this point, I want to push these changes to our backend, to our app script, Google server. So let's actually do a split screen here. So I'm going to click here to add another terminal here. So this is running. That's doing our Vue JS project. Now I'm going to do npm. And the other one for pushing, I called, if I go back to our package.json really quickly, I called it gstart. So that's going to do this push thing. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do npm run gstart. So it says no valid clasp.json file located. And again, that's because, like I've mentioned, we need to move this clasp.json file out of this folder to this top level. So I'm going to grab this and push it over here, right here on top level. So now I got just these two files in our app script directory. So I'm going to go back and rerun that. And you can see that should push those files to our script server. So if I go back and quickly reload this, you should be able to see that this is here, and this index file that was created by Parcel is also here. So we got all of that. So at this point, I'm gonna just stop this, Control C out of this watch. And I want to just make sure that I deploy my web app so that I have a dev link to work with. So I'll go back here and I'll go under deploy and do a new deployment and create a web app, make it our head deployment. You can set your settings here as you need. I'm just gonna keep it like this. And hit done. And now if I go under deploy and test deployments, we should have our dev link. If I open this, so far I've got a blank file. Probably some sort of error I did, but doesn't matter. We have our link. That's what we needed. So let's go ahead now and pull all this deployment changes to here. So I'll go here and do npm gpull. Actually run gpull. That should bring all those changes over here. So like this, deployments and settings, whatever. And at this point, we can just restart that gstart. To push any changes automatically that we do to our Google server. So now let's try to see what our error was. So I'm going to go to that code.js here. Let's make sure this is correct. Looks all right. Let's now go back to our JavaScript file. Let's just get rid of this for a second here. Let's reload this. Let's try to look inside of our console and see what it says. So syntax error, missing parentheses after arguments list. All right, so I had to take a second to troubleshoot what's going on. And what I did find out there is that when you do this watch command, the version that it creates, even though it works locally, it would not work once it's pushed to AppScript. But what we can do here, we can do build instead and build the actual production version, which did seem to work just fine. So I'm going to do parcel build here to get the build production version. But now the problem is that now it's not going to be automatically doing changes as we save our files. So to get those automatic changes to work, let's actually install NodeMon. So I'm going to go here. Let's just clear this and do npm install. And we'll do dev version only, NodeMon. And that should now be in our dependencies too. There it is. So now using NodeMon, we should be able to run this build command, which is this start command really. And what I'll do, I'll just rename this to build. And we'll add a start script, which will be the one running our NodeMon command. And that is going to be NodeMon, and we want this to execute a script. And we need to do that script in double quotes like this. So let's just escape those. And in between those, we're going to do the command. And the command is going to be right here, npm run build. So hopefully if I did this correctly, if I do start, that should run this, which in turn should do this build, which will do this build, and it will update every time we save. Now we also want to specify which file we're basically watching. And for that, we'll go up here and do watch, and we're gonna do this whole src folder. If there are changes in that src folder, let's actually do the current folder src in this folder, then we're going to have to run this command. So I'm going to save that. Let's just try this. So if I do npm start, it did that optimizing, building. Seems like it did run that parcel build and it did what it needed to do. Now let's also start our pushing to our server. So I'm going to do npm gstart. So that pushes our changes to our server. Again, I forgot run, npm run gstart. So that's going to push those to our server. Let's go check out what happened. So there it is, hello Vue. So now it actually worked out. With our build version, we got our Vue app here. Now let's try to go back now and do some changes. Let's close this, close this. This is at this point our Vue app. Basically, all our app script stuff is going to happen here in this app script folder, and we're not going to touch this HTML. It's going to be auto-generated. Now, as far as our Vue, let's go to our Vue file, and we did do this variable name Vue, and that's what's loading here. Let's just add a paragraph, maybe down here. And in this paragraph, we'll just do another text. That will be our variable name, and we're going to create that here. Some new text here, like so. So if I save this, hopefully that rebuilds. I didn't really see that doing anything, so it's like NodeMon didn't detect those changes. So we may have to go back and look at that watch to see if we set that up right. Let's just go and refresh this. Yeah, that didn't push anything. So let's go and check it out. So the command I did here for watching the source directory right here doesn't seem to work. I'm going to go check out their documentation. So here it is. That's their docs. So see, it says specifying extensions watch list. By default, it's looking at JS. These are the extensions. But that does not include Vue extension for us. So that's the reason it doesn't actually pick those up. So let's actually specify our own extensions. So I'm going to copy that, go back, get back to this, and add that extensions list here too. So the files that we're going to have here, it's going to be HTML, JS, Vue. So I'm going to type HTML, JS, and Vue. If you do end up having more extensions of different files, you're going to have to add those here too to this list. So let's save this. I'm going to have to restart this one. So Control C, get back to running this, npm start. So optimizing, hashing, that got pushed. Now let's go first of all check and make sure that this now has that extra line. So it does. Now let's try it again to make sure it actually updates when I save it again. So I'm going to close this, go back to our Vue file, and let's add something else. Let's add an array. And that will be 1, 2, 3. And let's load that here someplace. So let's create an unordered list. And we'll create a list item. And we're going to use some sort of v4 directive. Let's go and open their docs and see what that should be like. So I'm going to go here and find list rendering. So there it is. Copy this, go back and paste it here. And in our case, our array is called myList. So we'll call it for my item in my list. Right there, we're going to have to load that my item. So let's save this. See, as I saved it, it did package this again. and it's going to push it to our server. So at this point, if I go back and reload this, we got our list loaded, as you can see, with these items in it. There it is. So that's our setup. Now we got Vue JS working with our app script. And now we just have to come back every time we need to work on this. I'm going to do Control-C, Control-C. We have to have 2 terminal windows. And in one of them, we're going to run this npm start to start our build server for our Vue.js and to actually send these files to our Google server. We're going to basically do gstart and npm run gstart on this other one. So once we run both, we can now work on it like you would. Once in a while, you may have to log in again, glogin. And if you lost your actual files and you want to find where they are on Google's server, which is here, right there, you can go to script.google.com and search for whatever title you gave it when you created your app. So for me, it's called First Vue App. That's the way you could find it. Now, the way that ended up here, just to remind you, that was because when I do this gcreate, I had this title, First Vue App. And that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.